Hey there guys, this is Obsidian Jill. Got another video for you today. And this is coming from the test server, part of episode 41, House of Legends. This is going to be Batcave Inner Sanctum Elite, which is the Batman upscaled version. So originally I released FOSS 2, and then the alert technically is Phantom Zone. For the Batman theme of Save the Universe, which is the upscaled content, is going to be Inner Sanctum, and the alert is going to be the Family Reunion, which came out of Origin Crisis. The 1-1 content hasn't been confirmed yet, 100% wise. There's rumors, but nothing's been officially released. So we're covering Inner Sanctum. It's pretty much exactly how you remember it, and if you run it within, I don't know, it's since stats revamp, I think. Originally, there were some changes that I hope they bring back from the original release. So if you remember Batcave when it first came out, well, not even when it first came out, like the first 3 or 4 years of Batcave, if not 4 or 5. You had the Nero Omax, which basically, if you walked into their stun field, you were permastun. So, say the tank pulled the Nero Omac onto the group, it would permastun everyone until for 3 or 4 seconds until he got out. But now it pretty much does nothing. Even I walked into it, I wasn't even stunned. I think before it stunned you once and you just had to break out, and then that was it. But now it looks like it doesn't even stun. So not sure too sure what happened with that. I'm kind of skipping away because Inner Sanctum is a longer raid. It took us about 40 minutes with one wipe on the first boss, which is our Custodian, which I'll explain why we wiped. At least you'll see it in a few minutes. But the second one was the eye drones. So the eye drones, they spawn periodically throughout Inner Sanctum. Basically, the first player that would target them or hit them, it would drain all their power. So basically, you want to make sure that it wasn't like a DPS or a tank getting hit or a healer. It was the controller, so we could manage it. But they didn't do that either. Now the eye drones do nothing. So really, that's a shame. I mean, that's more nostalgia than anything. But with the Custodian boss, basically, he's the exact same as well, where he'll absorb different NPCs. I forget what the alerts is, but Milbarch basically semi-remade Custodian for that alert fight. And it was essentially the same process. But now you'll see the bug. What happens is, I'm not sure if it's been reported on the forums. I would hope so, because as of this video, we have a release date, which is Wednesday. So 2 days to fix all this kind of stuff. But our Custodian has an invulnerability phase, which basically when all the NPCs come out, you have a choice to kill. So whichever one you don't kill, he's going to absorb that one, and then he'll gain those abilities like Doom Spin, the stun attack, the one that does the encasement beam, stuff like that. So depending on which NPC you leave alive, like the wing armor is going to be Doom Spin, etc. So there's different ones where you want to leave alive, like or which ones you want to kill. During that phase, you can't target the boss. You can't lower his health. So the issue there is that the tank aggro will drop, because it's only going to last 12 seconds. It's the same thing happened in the past, and then they made him be able to be tauntable through the shield, at least for the tanking. So they obviously took that away, or that wasn't carried over correctly. So now anytime he goes into that phase, he's going to drop aggro and just start lunging the DPS. So that's going to be an issue for survivability, especially for Elite. I mean, it happened in the past in regular, but it didn't matter because you had unlimited pickups. But in Elite, if you got a BS death to that lunge, there's nothing you can do. I mean, he's attacking you, hitting you for as you saw there, his Custodian Haymaker, it was 241k you see for the combat log, and then the other one's 179. So you're only going to get 1 page proc. If there's 2 healers, you can get 2 page procs, and then after that, you're pretty much dead. I mean, even if you're rolling, he's still going to lunge you, so it's a pretty unavoidable death for the DPS. The only way to stop that phase is to kill all the other NPCs, so there's one left for him to absorb. So it's 10-15 seconds, because especially you can't DPS because you got to run for your life. I mean, if you just sit there and DPS, he's going to lunge you and just stomp you, and nothing you can do unless healers have shields. But you have a lot of healers not going to run shields. In this case, they're going to run green circles for damage. So that'll be interesting how that's handled. That should be fixed, because that was an issue in the past. Other than that, it's a really straightforward fight. Really simple. It's more of a DPS check. You just kill him before he kills you, kind of. But really, the NPCs don't really present that much risk, especially when you're going to have... I know we're higher CR because we have the 344 vendor gear, and I've got the 347 elite gear. But, that's still... You're not accounting for player bias, artifacts, allies... you know, I'm using my ally Cyborg, but I'm not sure if the other players were, etc. So, I mean, damage isn't really an issue, especially if you've got players swapping in Dead King Scepter, etc. So, this fight really isn't that much of a danger at all. I would have liked it to be more, because Our Custodian, certainly for that nostalgia factor, was a really interesting boss fight, but it's really straightforward. I mean, groups, if you don't have the damage, groups are going to struggle 100%. That's, which I mean is par for the course for a lot of elite raids. So Zeta Drone is the second boss. So Zeta Drone, if you don't remember, his main mechanic is that these nanobots are going to spawn from the north side and the south side, and basically walk towards the boss, and you'll see him get healed a few times, but that's all it is. So when whatever spawn the nanobots spawn on, you're supposed to drag the boss away. Most, like the tank here didn't really do it. He just kind of grouped it all together, which I mean is fine. The healer, we can do more damage than he can heal back, but you can see he chunks health up there, so it just takes time. So basically, you're supposed to drag, if you're doing it right, you're supposed to drag the boss away from the nanobots, and then kill the nanobots, and then they respawn again. So it was harder in the past, because obviously there wasn't the damage factor. We didn't have like orbital strikes and, you know, artifacts and everything else, allies. So really, you can pretty much damage check through this, especially because you're going to have a lot of prec DPS on live server, so you're going to be able to get the damage on Zeta, and then have some might DPS or something, or brawling DPS or something like that to clean up the ads. So I really don't see that being much of an issue, but I mean, that was the only mechanic with this fight, which is dragging away from the nanobots. He'll still heal through a heal debuff. I'm not sure if the heal debuff helps at all, because it's a mechanic heal. It's not like a bead bot or something like that from Machine, where if you put the heal debuff, it wouldn't heal all the way. But since it's a mechanic heal based, it shouldn't matter that much with the heal debuff. But I mean, that's essentially it. The fight's going to take a little bit longer just because you have to get through those extra heals, but I mean, it's not to the point where it's going to be hard at all on one that hits live server. But I mean, technically it's more of a damage check, but not compared to the Our Custodian, because I mean, if you have the more phases Our Custodian has currently, the more people are going to die. So now we get to the last boss, Brother Eye. Inner Sanctum is a longer raid. There's a whole bunch of tunnels to clear. There's a whole bunch of boss fights, not boss fights, but I mean fights along the way. You got the shield guardians that are going to shield each other. You've got those turrets you have to destroy. They're going to keep infinitely spawning ads, and you'll be in combat the entire time. So Inner Sanctum is a longer raid, that's for sure. But in terms of it being upscaled, I wish it would have been a little bit better. But I mean, they could just increase some health here and there. But I mean, this Brother Eye fight, the first phase takes forever, and you'll see me die kind of shortly here. I wasn't sure the green beam would kill, but apparently it did. The something stun beam. Thought it probably should be Brother Eye in the combat log, but I really didn't. I thought like one beam drains health, the other one drains power, and the other one kills you, like the red beam, like the laser. But apparently I was mistaken. I haven't run Inner Sanctum in probably a few years, so that's why you'll see me play a bit timidly on Brother Eye eventually when he spawns. So, but I still remember this being a lot harder in the past. Like, you really had to guard Batman. You had to destroy the terminals when they're up. Now they changed it to where Batman just kind of auto does the terminals. You don't have to really do anything. All you're basically doing is just sitting killing the Omax that spawn. So it adds like 4 or 5 minutes to the fight, because Batman's got to go around and do every single terminal. At least I don't think we had to turn the terminals. I didn't see any players going for it, unless like the healer did or something. But like that's before, like way back in the past, you had like sorceries do like that. They would transmute the terminals and destroy them. You could use the in the past you could also use the speed coals, and they would destroy the terminals because they were considered objects. Because this was always a longer fight. But yeah, the only risk to the group here in this first phase of Brother Eye fight is just the lasers, and I mean they're pretty easy to avoid. You just basically can stand in them, so it's going to be no issue for Prec DPS because they can keep floating around themselves. And even my DPS, I mean, I'm stuck in Tesla Ball, Heat Vision, and the Electric Finisher, Ionic Drain. So, I mean, there's plenty of channels for me, and really, my death was completely avoidable. I just didn't think it would kill me until it did. I'm not sure if I got a page proc on one of the hits, but I thought it was just the red laser that was the issue. I didn't think green wasn't going to be that much damaging, but I was wrong. And then you have his main lasers come out. I mean, these are super easy to avoid. They have tracks in them, so I mean, there should not be death to them. I mean, there's nothing really. The only thing to DPS is just an ad anyway, so if it's hitting you, just roll the way you dodge it. Healers can have their shields out for this part too. But that's all it is, since there's only one ad. It's not like there's, you know, really pressing. There's not like the boss or anything like that. So there's no reason why any DPS or any player should drop during this fight, because it's just one ad. It's not going to be the end of the world. And I'm just I'm semi-paying attention to that top right-hand corner to see if we do have to destroy the terminal, which I don't think. I mean, the player was there unless you turn the cog, but that cog was only up for like half a second. But you'll see eventually when Brother Eye comes out, that's just kind of a shorter fight as well. I hope that it would be more damaging. I mean, really, Brother Eye is the only way he can kill you is if he's on top of you and kind of stuns you, or his spin attack, which the spin's pretty slow. So I mean, at that point, you just, you know, don't just sit there and eat it. But yeah, it's just this one was a longer raid choice. I mean, it's still nice for nostalgia, and it's way better than doing like Batcave Outers or Subcontract. I mean, Subcontract wouldn't have been too bad because it'd been shorter, but it's really just focusing on like 2 boss fights really. So Inner Sanctum was definitely the right choice to upscale to Elite, but I feel like there's a lot of things missing. So now we got Brother Eye coming out. Oh yeah, he still does his laser. I mean, you'll see me play timidly in this fight because I don't want to die. But I usually his laser beam was line of sight. So if he was doing it in the air and not the ground effect, it wouldn't hit you. I think it hit me twice. And now here he's rolling, being chased. I'm just rolling because I don't want to die. His spin was like 160k damage, which, I mean, isn't that much considering that you have like 260k health. So you can take 2 spin attacks easily with it before getting a heal. So at that point, the beam did hit me. Once again, the beam will hit me 90k through a shield. So I'm not sure if any of this is actually going to be a one-shot. It's definitely not with a page proc, but unless you just stand and eat the spin. But other than that, when he teleports, it's easy to avoid when he's going to be spawning. And there's always a safe spot. Technically, the safest spot here was the door. Me being a channel power was a little bit annoying because I had to keep chasing because it's a definitely big room to get out of range. So I think that was there was invisible. At least to me it was invisible. But yeah, if you're Prec TPS, you got no issue. But my TPS with channels, the room's pretty large, so I'm constantly canceling and chasing him. But really, that's all it is. I mean, we didn't have any green circles. I'm not sure what the other players had for like damage supercharge, but Brother Eye, even originally Brother Eye was just a damage check. You just killed him, but how fast we did it here and how fast he died is definitely interesting compared to what it's going to be on live server. So I feel like Brother Eye at least, like I would focus much more on this phase because you got the lasers and you got Brother Eye, rather than the first phase, which is you just sitting around the terminals. The terminals used to be a lot harder and you used to be a lot more finicky. Like you messed up the phases on the terminals, you had to redo them, etc. So that's really what the annoying part was. But now that with those changes, the first phase is just kind of tedious and you're just waiting around for like 5 minutes for it to get to the second phase. And the second phase is actually where all the action is. So I would put much more emphasis on the second phase. Not so much that the first phase is just as long. Maybe cut the first phase by like 3 or 4 minutes and then maybe increase his health here so the second phase takes like 1 or 2 minutes longer. Because there's certainly way more chances to die in the second phase than the first one. But here's Inner Sanctum. I wanted to bring it to you. I know it's out. The DLC comes out in a couple of days, but I wanted to at least give you a preview of what the Elite version is going to be like, if you can even really call it Elite. But the upscaled Inner Sanctum, and then hopefully once we find out what the Wonder Woman raid, well, the raid will the DLC will already be released at that point, so I'll be able to bring it to you there. So I'm still testing allies. My next video is going to be the ally system, and then my video after that is going to be everything you need to know. So stay tuned.